Pato Ball delivers in a big way for the second straight time. Plus, Faysal actually defends Nelson for once. The spite is starting to set in for Tori. Nany is out here double dealing, and TJ is laughing his ass off because it's that time of the season, ladies and gentlemen. Trivia time. It's the challenge. Ride or Dies episode 11 recap coming up right now. What up, my fellow challenge lovers? Welcome to The Challenge Historian, where we dive deep into all things MTV's The Challenge, past, present, or future. If it's happening in the Challenge universe, we are here to document it. I am your host and dedicated Challenge Historian, Jacob Hollabaugh. Thank you so very much for joining me here this Wednesday night, Thursday morning, whenever it is you are getting around to listening to this Ride or Dies recap podcast. That's what we're here to do. Episode 11, Ride or Dies. The season rolls right along and is just gonna probably keep rolling on right through the new year into the probably 2024. I actually think this season might go a full 60 plus episodes all the way into 2024, the way it's shaping up right now. But we'll talk about that later. We've got Ride or Dies episode 11. That's what we're covering here this evening. Couple programming notes. The Australia season recap is going to be on this Friday. It was meant to be this past Monday. However, for those of you maybe in the Midwest region of the States here, or maybe anywhere really in the States, you might have heard there's a big old storm coming through the Midwest and big parts of the country here for the holiday weekend, which meant a bunch of plans got rearranged. I am here in Chicago, if you didn't know, getting the brunt of this massive storm rolling in, which completely altered all holiday related travel. I am now hunkering down for the weekend and hoping that the negative 20 degrees and the possible 10 plus inches of snow isn't gonna do any harm or anything here, but wasn't traveling, so we had to move some things around. Did a little celebrating a little early, gonna do it a little late, which changed the work and podcast schedule. So I appreciate your patience in waiting for that Challenge Australia season recap. That will be Friday. As for next week, in between the two holidays, Ride or Dies for sure next week. That's the only podcast that's guaranteed next week. Otherwise, we will see. There might be a second one. There might not. We're going to see how things go with the altered holiday schedule and New Year's coming up and all of that good stuff. So that's what you got coming forward. And speaking of the Challenge Australia, it's going to be referenced a few times tonight. So if you're someone out there who has not checked out that season, and maybe you've got a nice little break coming up for the holiday, maybe you got a little break from work, maybe you too are also like, I was gonna do all this traveling and now boom, big winter storm, I'm stuck. Well, condolences, but if you need something to binge, the Challenge Australia would be quite the good binge. And again, those links are very prevalent out there. And there's a couple things we're going to talk about this episode and reference a couple things that happened on the Challenge Australia. I will do so in a spoiler-free way for those who haven't watched. But go find that watch, and then you got all the recaps there to listen to as well. Go back on the feed, and I did 2 episodes at a time. Not even that many recaps. You can binge the whole season plus the recap podcast probably in one elongated holiday weekend. So that's there for you. As for tonight, episode 11, Ride or Dies. Let's dive in, skipping the Cliff Notes recap as we've been doing of late, heading right into the storyline discussion. It's trivia time, TJ's favorite time of the year, and most fans' favorite daily of the year. I'd actually really like to kind of do some sort of poll or have someone with as big an audience as possible from the challenge community do a poll out there. If everyone actually, is trivia really truly the number one favorite? I think it is, because it's kind of the only daily challenge that's like a staple. You could just say they do trivia every season, even if it's different every season. And a lot of the others you could say like, oh, they do a mini final every season, but it's like, really, what's that? And is that going to be someone's favorite? I don't know. But I'm starting to think I just don't know. I know that it's at least half of the fan base's favorite daily challenge. It is my favorite daily challenge every season, more often than not. It's certainly the one I anticipate the most, but again, it's the only one that I know we're going to get for sure in some version. And as we always talk about, some versions of trivia are better than others. And this one is, I will say, better than the similar version of it that we get in the Challenge Australia, as now we have the fun moment of that we went all the way through the Challenge Australia. By the end of that season, there was at least a couple daily challenges or eliminations or elements of the game that we're like, oh, now we get to see it here first. Good for them. Now we'll probably see that in Ride or Dies as the last of these seasons that we're watching filmed in that location, unless of course we get to watch UK or Argentina. That's neither here nor there. This version, the team version of it, was a lot more fun on these spinning boards than the pairs version was in Australia. Team trivia is maybe just kind of a lot better than pairs or individual trivia, honestly, because everyone, gets to stay in the game for longer. And I don't know, I just found myself I don't remember the last time we had team trivia, but I really liked this version of it. I do still prefer to have questions with a list of answers. I still think that is the best version of trivia because it adds a little bit of a level of fairness to the game when it's, there's 8 answers to this question, like go until someone gets one wrong. A bunch of people have to answer the same question then. So I do prefer those, but I thought this was a really good version of trivia. I thought the questions were both pretty fair across the board outside of it's like every question is ride or die themes. And then boom, oh, also, could you spell a word for me? And if you're spelling bee champs out there and you're like, yeah, those are super easy, like good for you. That's awesome. I would love to be able to spell words better, but most people suck at spelling, especially, most people suck at spelling when we have to learn how to spell words and actually study for spelling tests in like 3rd grade, 5th grade, whatever grade you do spelling tests the most in. But certainly in adult life, we all suck at it. We all type everything. Everything's digital. We use spell check and all that stuff, and still even get words wrong all the time. So I did feel bad for the couple people that out of nowhere, it's like, okay, well, we're thinking ride or dies. We're thinking ride or dies. Lots of pop culture ride or dies. We got this. And then boom, here's a word. I don't know how to do that. Why can't I have pop culture? Why can't I have the Williams sisters, huh? Which, speaking of, let's just quickly, because it's trivia, the number one thing to talk about with trivia is what were the worst answers and what were the most impressive. So we do a little winners and losers here. We start with the losers, or the worst looks, as I would call it, because there's no actual losers in trivia. This is all in good fun because I hope everyone listening would be, smart enough to know that they also would look dumb in these situations. They probably would also to come across something they have no idea and everyone else knows, and you would look a little silly, and that's the fun of it. And so the worst looks, but these are certainly not losers because they got to participate in trivia late in a challenge season, or midway in a challenge season, whatever the hell we are. Anyways, worst looks. First up, Chauncey. This one's actually like legit bad. Like yeah, sure, maybe you've never paid attention to tennis in your life, and also I believe Chauncey is one of the youngest people in this cast. I think he's like early, like 23, 24 maybe. And so, Venus and Serena, Venus hasn't really been doing she's been doing her thing, but not like winning at a high level for, the last handful of years. Serena's been in and out, but still like winning a title after, between kids and all that, like crazy shit in the last few years. But I get it, where I'm 32 and I'm like, dude, Venus and Serena, like, what are you talking about? The women that win every freaking major for like a decade plus or whatever it was. I get that maybe, the youth part of that, but still, like, come on, it's Venus and Serena. Jordan, not being able to spell his partner's last name. I don't know how to pronounce it properly and with the proper, the proper way he does in the confessional afterwards. That's fine. Ferreira. But I do know how to spell it. Now, have I typed her name into a lot of documents tracking stats of the challenge or captions or notes or anything? Yeah, sure. But like, she's your ride or die, Jordan. It's her last name. And it's I guess tricky, but it's not that tricky. Ferreira. Like, you got to remember the EI. Like, come on. So that was a tough look. We did have some exposure of ride or dies who maybe weren't the most ride or die. Then Tori. This one is I don't even know it should be on the list because I get it. Again, you know, you didn't watch Good Will Hunting. Maybe you're just not into that Hollywood movies. Like, you don't know Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are best buds. Okay. Is that such a sin? Well, yeah, I think it is. So yeah, the fact you don't know Matt and Ben, like, and it's more so if she would have been completely oblivious, like, I don't know what that movie is. I don't know any. I have nothing. But the fact that she immediately was like, well, Ben Affleck, and then it's like, okay, well, if you know one, like, it would have been better if you didn't know either. You should have thought, maybe think through the end of the answer and you're like, wait, I don't know either one. I shouldn't act like I know one because it's better. So, anyways, Tori's on the list. Casey's on the list. Garden of Eden. I saw some people on the internet saying that it was like rude to ask her the biblical question, and like, let's just not, everyone, let's point out the true flaws in the show, because it has them constantly. All of these reality competition shows unfortunately do have real things to point out and be like, get better, do better. I don't think this was one of them. I think it was a pretty, it was fine. But yeah, she gets Adam and Eve wrong. And again, as I think it's nice they have like Faysal be like, hey, I'm different religion over here. Still know that one. It's pretty just prevalent in the world. And yeah, so that one not great. Mariah was the other ride or die who gets completely called out. Her and Faysal both. I forget what Faysal's question about Mariah that he got wrong. Oh, siblings, which is also, they'll both group together. Mariah and Faysal, obviously not ride or dies. We've known that for a while. Obviously, just barely knew each other. She was fit. They weren't going to put him and Casey together for some unbeknownst reason, and so he brings Mariah along, which is great because Mariah has been a good addition to the show. But she doesn't know his birthday month, not day, month. Like, month. You just got to know the month. Come on. It's just, yeah. And, he doesn't know how many siblings she has. That's slightly, it's slightly not as bad as the birthday month. It's still really bad. And as she points out, it is maybe equal because it's not like she has one or two siblings where it's like, oh yeah, like I know we talked about that, or like you told stories about this person, but was there another one? It's like she has 6, and so that is a big number. And as she says, like, when it's that kind of number, like, it feels like you would remember that number. So Faysal and Mariah, not ride or dies. Then Devin loses the game on the Jay-Z Alicia Keys Empire State of Mind question. And I've got a little bit of a thought with this one because, he says Jay-Z and Rihanna. If you don't know the answer, if you're gonna get that wrong, that is like a realistic, like, yeah, like, I messed up, and like those two have collabed before to much success, and like whatever. But are we sure Devin didn't do this on purpose? Are we sure he isn't okay losing these and just putting on the act? And we're gonna talk about him at the bar later on, and so I think the answer to this question is no, but it also could be yes, in that Devin is this good of an actor and a performer now, because I don't know. He admitted earlier in the season via social media, he was one of the ones that came out and said, like, none of us are trying to win the daily challenges because it wasn't advantageous, which now it is advantageous to win at this point of the game, unless you're okay with, one, it's a girls' day, so maybe, some of that seeping back in from the olden days of like, it's a girls' day, the guys don't care. If it's a guys' day, the girls don't have to care. Or also, you're just kind of okay with losing people from your team because you feel pretty secure with the alliance you have on the other side of the aisle, that you aren't going to end up any worse than in the draw with, someone else that was probably going to save you if they pulled the thing. So I don't know. I'm getting some feelings that maybe Devin wasn't trying. I feel like he knew the answer to that question. But the final loser, Bananas. The old ass jokes, dude. Like, he's got to stop. He's like, the suck my ass TJ. It was kind of funny the very first time you did it out of nowhere, and TJ thinks it's like one of the greatest moments he's ever experienced on the show, or at least is nice enough to say that over and over on different podcasts where Bananas brings it up with him. But all the different jokes from Bananas, his jokes are never that good. They're always, the lowest hanging fruit. the most obvious and usually retread jokes said over and over, and they're just not that funny. And I kind of was a little annoyed with him this whole challenge. As for winners, I've only got 3. Nelson, obviously, for both getting 2 questions right and the farting moment, which we will talk about in the awards section. Olivia, for yes, she got her word wrong. She couldn't spell her word, but she went all the way wrong with it. And she was just like, I already fucked this word up midway through. I'm just gonna throw some C's and T's and whatever in the end of this and get way, way wrong. That was fun. Plus, she had the little moment where they put the Frozen background behind her. She says she almost was Elsa for something or other. I liked her performance all around, even if she didn't get a question right. And then the third and final winner, and obviously the biggest winner of the day, TJ. TJ always has so much fun. He has a lot of fun here. I appreciated getting the montage of TJ laughing. I appreciated the conversation about TJ's laugh echoing throughout their heads all day long when they do trivia. All of it, TJ as the biggest winner of trivia, per usual. Next thing to discuss then, the decision to throw in Nurys. And we'll get to the Tori Jordan Nurys as a part of this because that's really kind of the only storyline that is above the actual what's happening in the game of this episode. So we'll get that in this decision. But the decision to throw in Nurys. The team is not unified at all. Let's start there. Their team is not unified. It wasn't last week after the moment they realize, they have a group meeting. They can't come up to a decision. They get to the zone, and then clearly it is 5 people made a decision and it did not tell the other couple, most notably Nelson, who thought, I'm a part of this. What the hell is going on here? And so Nelson brings this up when they get to the deliberation again. And, the 8 of them were sitting in the room. And got to give my guy a shout out. Faysal actually defends Nelson for once. Now, does it even deserve to be like a point in the ledger of like making up for all of the things? The one big thing, obviously. I don't know, but it was a nice sign and a nice moment after last week when we were like, wait, did Faysal know? And like, because he and Nell, like, you can't even tell your boy at this point. Like, that's going to be a real bad look and really tough for that specific relationship within the team. But it seems like maybe Faysal was like, I was told as we walked up there or whatever, like he wasn't totally in the loop either. And then in this situation, he actually defends Nelson. Nelson brings this up. Everyone's like, it's fine. Like, we'll be kumbaya. But then also, like, we're going to throw in Nurys, right? Because we have to weaken their team. And they use the weaken their team argument as why it has to be Nurys. And Faysal is very quick to be like, whoa. Last week it wasn't weaken their team because if it was, that would have been Jordan and Devin, and y'all weren't having any of that. And he like stands up for Nelson's side of things and Nelson's point, and he kind of moves over to maybe Nelson's side of this little split between their teams. So that's something to keep an eye on. And this is all geared towards one thing. As usual, I mean, these people are vets of this game. They know what wording to use, what arguments to use to get whatever goals they have, even when those arguments and goals aren't in alignment. It's just what you can say or can't say at any given time. This is all geared towards keeping Nany safe, which, what an advantage for Nany. She's got Casey, Bananas, Tori, and Anissa on the other team looking out for her best interest, aka the 4 women of the Vacation Alliance plus her partner on the other team. So that's pretty insane. We do have the literal moment that I bet so many fans out there who hate this Vacation Alliance were just cringing at. We get the 4 of them in the bedroom talking together, Nany, Tori, Anissa, and Casey, and like plotting. And it's just a snapshot of, this group, or the female side of the group that has really taken over the show in the last few seasons, and much to a lot of fans' chagrin. So it's all to keep Nany safe. That's the entire argument from Casey, from Bananas, and really even Tori and Anissa. A little bit is we can use keeping Nany safe as a guise, because what Tori really wants and what Anissa is also maybe really wants is to get Nurys out of spite. Because Tori and Jordan and Nurys, I regret what I said back in like episode 7 or 8. I forget which podcast, but I was like, wow, you know what's kind of nice? Really haven't had any like Tori Jordan stuff, and I wasn't really looking forward to it, and I didn't really want it to be the biggest storyline of the season. And I spoke a little bit too soon. I should have realized this season's like going to be 72 episodes long. There's a lot of time left to have the storyline, because now it's like the only storyline the last couple weeks. Again, the only one that rises above like what's actually happening in the game. And it blows up even further this week. Um, you know, the spite is setting in for Tori, and I feel horrible for Tori. I really, really do, because this situation is totally fucked. Like, so fucked. I just can't imagine it. I've said that before. I will say that again. I'll make sure to preface everything with that and acknowledge that this is a horrendous situation, and there has been multiple times during this horrendous situation this season where she's been on the receiving end of some shitty actions by and words and whatever by Jordan again. And you'd feel a certain way in her position no matter what's going on. But I say all that to just make sure to preface and acknowledge that, because this is the first episode I've been turned off by Tori in the situation. And just I in particular, the conversation she and Nurys has. And again, I get it. I get where she's coming from. I get why she's feeling this way. I get that she would probably be the first to say she isn't acting in her best self and, and whatever in these moments. But she says to Nurys, quote, "I would have never done that to a girl. I would have been more considerate in the moment, but I don't think that makes you a bad person." End quote. And that little, "I don't think it makes you like, I wouldn't have done that, you did, but I don't think it makes you a bad person," is just so disrespectful to say. You are telling them they're a bad person when you say that. And whether you want to believe, Nurys is for the action for hooking up with Jordan in this particular situation or not, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I just wish it would all go away, honestly. And I'm, hopeful that while I love Nurys is the fucking best. Like, I hope she does 7 seasons in a row. It sounds like she's been in the reality world for a while. She's one I keep seeing a bunch of social media stuff of like, we could have had Nurys like way long ago and we didn't. Like, they fucked up on casting. At least they finally got it right now. So I forget what her original shows or anything were, but yeah, give me as many seasons as Nurys wants to do, because she's amazing. But now that she's eliminated by the end of this episode, or at least in the Redemption House or whatever it's going to be, maybe we get a little less Tori, Jordan, Nurys. But guess what? Next week on, the only thing they feature, Tori and Jordan. So we'll see how that goes. But her vote and Anissa wanting to go that route is definitely because of the Jordan thing. Plus, you combine that with Bananas fucking Mariah, and they don't want to go. So he's, convincing everyone we don't want to go for her. And then you throw on top, they don't care about Nelson. They're trying to protect Nany. And this is a done deal. Everything is working against Nurys in this moment, against Nelson's side of the argument in this moment. That just, it's a wrap. There's no argument to be had. This is only going to go one way the entire time. But quickly, before we move to the elimination, gotta say, I love a hypothetical. I love talking about what would have been the best version or could be the best version of the season. And we missed out in a big way here. And this is why I was so upset when Devin got that question wrong. And while I possibly think he got that wrong on purpose, I don't know. If the other team wins, if Mariah's team wins, this episode is so interesting and so entertaining. Because walk down that road with me just real quick here. The other team wins. And so that would mean that Faysal's team has lost, which means on the Women's Day, Tori, Anissa, Casey, and Olivia would be up for elimination. And that would get very complicated, because on the other team, you would immediately have, regardless of all the shit that's going down, you would have Jordan immediately be like, I got to look out for Tori and Anissa. And so by that would mean that, hey, Jordan would be the first one to be like, Olivia's really good and she's the rookie. We got to put her in his head, thinking we put Olivia in, Tori and Anissa. If they draw the safe thing, they can save each other. That's the best situation we can give to them. But then you would have Nany, who'd be like, wait a minute. If we put Olivia in, then Casey is more than likely going to be the one going against her. And I might be in this alliance with Tori and Anissa, but like, I'm in Casey, but like Casey and I are in a different level of that alliance in our minds. So like that ain't gonna happen. And I would have seen Nany being the one. She's clearly out. She's playing, she's playing for blood this season. Like she's double dealing. She's doing all this stuff. So I would not have put it past Nany to immediately been like, wait a minute, no, we can't do that. Olivia can't be the vote, which means it either has to be Tori or Aneesa. And I don't know which one she would have thrown under the bus. Probably Tori. But if she would have, you've got Horacio, who would have immediately been like, yep, I don't want to vote for Olivia. You're right. Whatever. Let's go with Tori. It's Tori. Nany says Tori. Horacio would immediately be like, yep, I'll vote for Tori. No problem. Mariah would be like, yeah, I'm not voting for Olivia. I'll vote for Tori. No problem. And then, Devin obviously probably sides with Jordan. He goes to that side of things. But then you got Chauncey and Amber, Chauncey's on the other team. You got Amber. She probably would be willing to go with the rookies, who she likes a little bit better. And then you've got Nurys, who also would be like, yeah, I'm not throwing Olivia in. That's my girl. That's my other fellow rookie. So right there, just with the Nany leading the way, and the three rookies on their team, Horacio and Mariah and Nurys, that's 4 out of 7. That's the votes. That's Tori going into the elimination. And then that's the draw setup where Olivia and Casey would very likely save each other. Maybe Casey would save Aneesa. Maybe. Or Olivia, being the smart politician she would be like, hey, you're possibly saved because of me, because they didn't want to put me in. And so if I pull the safe dagger, I will save you, but only if you promise to do the same for me. If you don't, then like I might pick Aneesa and put you in versus Tori and get one of the two of the strongest women out of the house or whatever. So there's just a world where no matter what, that's much more interesting, complicated, and a big argument between that team. And two, there's a world where it ends up being Aneesa versus Tori in Pato Ball pole wrestle, and that would have been, I don't know how hard they would have tried going against each other like that. Maybe in that situation actually sucks because maybe Tori in that moment is like, I'd rather not be here, honestly, right now. This whole experience has sucked, so I'll just bow out to my best friend. I don't know, but all the lead up would have been amazing. Would it have maybe ruined what ends up being a great elimination? I don't know, but I'll end the hypothetical there because now we've got to talk about that pretty great elimination. Let's talk about the elimination, and quickly before we do, Nany's double deal is going to get exposed, right? I feel like it's up to Mariah and Amber to figure it out and expose it, but those two are friendly. I would think they were eventually going to have some sort of talk. Maybe Mariah gives like another apology or whatever, and in that it comes up like, look, I had a deal with Nany, and then Amber would be like, wait, I had a deal with Nany, and like, this is going to get figured out. Will it or won't it? Because Amber also doesn't always talk that much after the fact. She kind of is, by sometimes not by her choice, is just forced to keep it moving in this game, which I don't get. We have yet again to not see any reasoning behind why no one seems to like Amber in this world other than all of the fans, because we all fucking love her. She's amazing. But anyways, I'm very curious to see if Mariah and Amber will have a conversation that will lead to Nany's double dealing getting exposed, or if she's just going to flat out get away with it, and she very well might. Pato Ball. Let's talk Pato Ball. Pato Ball delivers again. If you haven't seen Challenge Australia, I started this podcast with saying, go watch it, binge it over this holiday weekend, weeks, whatever we got coming here. But specifically, the 9th episode, the final elimination. I'm not going to say anything more than it's one of the all-time greatest eliminations that there's ever been. I will leave it at that because I know a lot of you listening haven't watched that season yet. And so I encourage you, again, it's a very good season. Episodes 1 and 2, and then 5 to 10 are really, really good. 3 and 4, there's kind of a little bit of a lull before 5, 6, 7, 8 is like, whoa, like this is amazing shit. And then the final is even actually like pretty good. And again, episode 9, the final elimination of the season, is one of the best of all time. And I guess it's obvious that it's Pato Ball related because I'm saying it here, but that's all I'll say. I won't say who's in it, anything like that. You should go watch the season. But Pato Ball, we've seen it once before, and it delivered in an all-time great way. And so now it comes back again, and we got the exact right matchup for it to deliver in a very good way again, because there was, pending if this was Mariah or Casey, I think just size, strength, experience wise, I don't know if this is as good of a matchup as Amber versus Nurys ends up being. Maybe I'm shortchanging Nurys, but I mean, I don't know. Mariah's quite a bit bigger and stronger than these two, or than Nurys is, and then Casey just my respect level for Casey is very, very high at this point on the physical side of things. So it just is what it is. Amber versus Nurys, solid matchup, turns into a great elimination round, an awesome elimination round. Both of these two women absolutely crush it. Nurys holds her own. She has the upper hand like a bunch of times. Like the first round's takes quite a while. The second round goes a little bit quicker, or maybe a lot bit quicker. But the first round, there's like 3 or 4 different moments where it's like Nurys got this. Like, she's got smart position. She's moving it all the right way. She's looking awesome doing it. And it feels like she's gonna win. But then we start to get doesn't pull it away, and then the editing gets a little obvious, but deservingly so, because they start doing all the talk of like, how the F does Amber get out of holding it in this way, that way, the other way? They do the whole, little montage of different people talking about how flexible she is, right up to the sex jokes from between her and Chauncey, which were great and I loved. And I finally some personality. Like, Chauncey's starting to, it feels like he's starting to get a little more comfortable and, doing the confessionals and just in the house in general and being on the cameras in general, whatever. We're getting a little more personality from him and from the two of them together. And I really like both them. I really like Amber. I don't get the whole why no one in the cast seems to ever like or want to work with Amber. She's a beast, and she proves it again here. But how the fuck does she get out of she's holding it behind her back multiple times in this, where she is holding behind her back, and Nurys has it, in front of her chest, like can rip, can turn, can whatever. And Amber's just flopping around, like, I'm just holding on. Doesn't matter where you pull it, I'm still going to keep a hand on. And it's pretty insane. And at the moment where they start highlighting that, you're like, oh, Amber about to win this, obviously. And she does. Amber shows out. She gets the win. She's now 5-1 in eliminations with a challenge championship, with the fact that everyone is always fucking taking shots at her for no reason. Every single season she's been on, she's been just targeted, fucked over. And she still, is 5-1 in the limbs, a challenge championship. In her third season, she's, making it very close to like in a solid position to maybe make another final here. Her resume is getting pretty stacked. That's all I'm saying. Her resume is getting pretty stacked. So we're gonna keep an eye on that. Let's see if she makes the final first. But then at that point, we've got to start talking like, it's not the best first 3 seasons anyone's ever had. I think there's gonna be some others that would stand up against it, certainly. But it's gonna start. It's just gonna start looking really, 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 really good and really, really starting to stand out. So that's that. Is Nurys on the other side though? Is Nurys injured? It feels like Nurys might be injured, because we get, she's holding her wrist after the first round is over, and then the second round doesn't take that long, and it feels like maybe it's because of her, she's not able to hold on super well, because she does amazing in the first round, and the second round's like a little bit easier of a path. And with the Pato Ball thing, it is really brutal. The handles are really, really brutal. I guess I should mention it. I cover it when I talk about the Pato Ball that is in Challenge Australia. Those handles move, as Anissa points out. They kind of move around, which means your hands and wrists specifically can get in all kinds of fucked up positions underneath bodies, moving around. It makes so you can hang on better, and you can, do what Amber does here and gets out of positions. But it also means that, you can possibly get yourself hurt really, really badly. But it definitely leads in this moment. Nurys is injured because she's holding it between the rounds. She's, holding it afterwards while she's standing there in the pit. And then when TJ brings her back in afterwards, she's, holding it again. And it just, as someone who has broken my wrist before, it looks like what it looks like when you fear that you've like broken or sprained your wrist or something in your hand or whatever, and you're like, I'm just going to put the other arm under it to like take the weight and the pressure off of it. It doesn't look good, is what I'm saying. And it feels like if she was injured, they would be like, hey, like, can you can we not say that yet? Are you like good? Like, could you at least go out there and talk to TJ, and then we'll deal with this later? So I fear that that works out because she has an amazing reaction to TJ telling her whatever. That little back and forth is way better and more interesting and entertaining than Big Ken was last week. But it feels like we're at some point down the road going to hear a Nelson. Unfortunately, Nurys got injured in that Pato Ball, and so she isn't still here, and that means that you are out of the game. And if that happens, wow, that's going to be, after this season Nelly's having, that's going to be really tough. But I don't know, man. It definitely looked like she was hurt. Time for some awards. We start with Best Quote, which, look, there were some good ones in this episode. I just maybe forgot to write them down. And so with this award, we only got one nominee, and he is the winner, and that's Nelson. Just for the simple fact that I did write down and remember that he dropped the quote, "Don't do this to me, TJ. I always look like Boo Boo the Foo," end quote, which I know Boo Boo the Foo is a slang saying that, lots and lots of people is used quite often by many folks, but I personally haven't come across it that much in my life, and so I purely associate Boo Boo the Foo with very specifically Darrell on Fresh Meat 1 during the moment where he is watching Kenny and Ev through or is it Kenny and Jen? I forget who. He's watching two other people talk through binoculars, and there's this fun little moment. They catch him looking at him in binoculars, and in the confessional he talks about, like, I'm not going to be Boo Boo the Foo. I know when I'm the one, being targeted here. And it's just a great little Darrell moment that I really, really love from that season. So when I hear Nelson say that, my mind is just boom, right back to Darrell and the binoculars doing a little spying on the teams in power and whatever. And so it felt like a fun challenge callback to me. Even, I don't know if Nelson is like, Darrell has said this on the show before, and, I look up to Darrell or whatever. I highly doubt it. I bet Nelson's just like, this is a saying that I would say, and I'm going to say it here. But for me, it felt like a challenge callback to a really fun moment that I like a lot. So for that reason, also because I didn't write down some of the other good quotes that were said, Nelson gets the win. As for best moment, 3 nominees, but the first one has 3 sub nominees in it because the first nominee is trivia, obviously. And within trivia, I would say Chauncey not getting the Williams sister question correct is one moment that stands out. The TJ laughing montage is another one that stands out, certainly. But Nelson's fart and Nelson going full, I'm going to throw the legs up, I'm going to rip ass, I'm going to let it be loud, and I'm going to tell everyone it's about to happen, then I'm going to do it, then I'm going to laugh about it, then I'm going to waft it to my teammates' faces. I mean, that was really fun. It was really great. I loved every moment of it. And so if there was one moment from trivia that had to actually be the standout nominee for the best moment of the episode, it's Nelson farting for sure. Next nominee, I referenced this earlier and I didn't talk about it yet, so we'll touch on it here. Nelson and Devin at the bar. They have a conversation at the bar, and Devin's performance in this conversation is just chef's kiss. Amazing. He looks very not interested in whatever the hell Nelson's talking about. He, a couple different times, has to say, what? Oh yeah. He's just in his own world of despair, I guess. He really, this is why I said he's either an incredible actor or my idea of him losing that challenge on purpose is completely and utterly wrong, because he seems devastated in this moment, like he let his team down and he's bummed out. He also seems incredibly upset at the drink he has been given. Whatever that concoction is, there is a moment at the end of it. The camera starts to pan away from the two of them and like kind of closer in to just Nelson, but you catch a little glimpse of Devin takes a sip and then just makes the most horrible face at his drink and like looks at the drink in just complete and utter anger. And I can tell, obviously he's a man who likes his beer, likes to have a cocktail, likes to have a drink. We know that. And the shit they're getting served at this place, I think Devin has officially reached the point of being completely fed up, that even when he's losing, he's like, look, my team sucks. We lost. I'm not up for elimination, though. I could get hammered right now if I wanted to. If I could have 12 beers if they let me, and they won't. They give me this bullshit, whatever, this sugar fruit filled, don't even think it has any liquor in it, mocktail type drink. He just looks disgusted. And Nelson the whole time is like pouring his heart out, like, I fucking hate this team. I wish I was on your team. I don't even care about losing. If the team was cool and like we liked each other and respected each other, it's just like, yeah, I love everything that's happening in that moment at the bar. And then the third and final nominee for the best moment is the elimination round, which is a very, very good elimination round all the way through. Of those three, though, I've got to give it to Nelson and Devin at the bar. And if you're like, that totally blew past me when you were watching the episode, go back and just rewatch that little moment and just watch everything that's happening on Devin's face. It's amazing. Episode MVP. 4 honorable mentions before the winner. Shout out to Faysal. There wasn't really a good person to slide into the 5th spot on this one, so he does, because again, we do get a little like him and Bananas at the beginning talking, and Bananas totally trying to paint, knowing how confessionals work, trying to paint Faysal as the villain in the like, man, he really fucked his partner over, he really doesn't care about Mariah type of thing, when it's like, okay, dude, you just know that eventually down the road, you and Mariah ain't happening probably outside of the show, and you're gonna get all the shit that you always get for these situations. So maybe you're trying to make Faysal look like the bad guy to her, not so that, to save yourself. Anyways, Faysal has that moment, and then he has the moment where he stands up for Nelson and maybe moves to Nelson's side of things within that team. And so yeah, there's no one else that was good to slide in the 5th, so he does. Devin's in 4th. Devin, great episode for Devin. He's maybe the best challenge cast member in my mind at this point. He always finds a way to add value to the episode, and I just really like Devin and everything he brings to the show. I don't always love the alliance he works with, but maybe that is even starting to crumble a little bit here. That could be one of the best things that maybe could happen in this season, is if that alliance did crumble a little bit for future seasons. 3rd, Nelson. 2nd, Nurys. Absolutely amazing episode for Nurys. Really, it was between Nurys and Amber, and I chose Amber as the winner in the end because she needs as much love as she can get in the world of the challenge. She deserves it. So Amber's the MVP of the episode. Nurys is a very close second, and I hope Nurys is not injured, and I hope that Nurys is one of the ones that Nelly T pulls it off and stays in long enough, and Nurys is able to come back into the game. Finishing it up with power rankings and predictions. On the female side, we'll start with the females. That was where the elimination was this week, so we'll stick with them up first here. No change to the top 5 at all. Almost nothing in this changes. Actually, nothing changes in this other than Nurys now falls out. She is in the waiting for redemption category, but Casey, Tori, Amber, Nany, Mariah, Anissa, Olivia. That's your top 7. That's all 7 that are left. Casey's in a dominant position. Tori maybe is still in a dominant position. We will see. She avoids that moment of, yes, if the other team wins on a women's day and we're still in these teams, like it is going to come down to Tori and Anissa versus Casey. And so that's going to lead to maybe the people she thinks has her back won't, because Casey will be above them in Nany's head specifically, but she's still in a great position. Amber in a solid enough position, or just is, if we make the final, I'm taking Amber seriously to win the final. Nany, Mariah, Anissa, Olivia at the bottom, because I think that's a elimination round waiting to happen. And I think if all these 7 women made the final, I think those 2 would be at the bottom. So they remain at the bottom of the power rankings. On the men's side, Faysal retains his top spot. Bananas right after him. Jordan and Devin right after them. Nelson, Horacio, Chauncey at the bottom. The real only movement here is I put Nelson above Horacio now. And obviously Big Kenny waiting on redemption, so he's not on the list. But yeah, I think the Horacio and Chauncey are obviously just going to be, if their teams lose on the guy day, they're going into elimination one way or the other. I guess their only way out is maybe they get to at least go to the draw, and maybe they could pull a safe dagger. Who knows? But the men's side, as the female side, really, I mean, the only one of this entire 14 people left that I would say, like, there's no way they win is Anissa, because I don't think there's a way she can win a final, even partnered back up with Jordan. But everyone else, I could see it. So it's really, I just feel like Faysal and Bananas are in the best spot, because I feel like they're in the absolute best spot to not have to go into an elimination of any kind. But otherwise, these lists, it's pretty even across the board. As for predictions, Didn't lose anyone from the preseason predictions again. So we got Bananas and Nany, Tori and Devin, Chauncey and Amber. 6 of our 10 original finals predictions left in the game. Like to see that. We got Tori and Devin still hanging around, our winners' picks. Like to see that. Last week we went 2.5 for 3. And the week before, we had went 3 for 3. We were on a little bit of a run here, and that ends because our predictions for this week, we went 1 for 3. Mariah's team wins the daily. That didn't happen, which meant that Anissa versus Olivia in the elimination also did not happen. But the one I did give myself credit for, I will say, Tori goes for Horacio. I said I thought that would happen. I predicted that, and you might be saying, hey, that didn't happen. And I would say to you, rewatch that conversation that they had because Tori's feeling deservingly upset and spiteful in the moment, and she sees this cute guy who she commented last week on, he's pretty cute over there, and then this week she has a one-on-one conversation with him. It's about the game, but there's some good vibes in that camp, and I counted that conversation as giving me 1 for 3 on my predictions. As for predictions for next week's episode, I believe that Faysal's team is going to win again, a third in a row. It's going to get ugly. That's just kind of the way it goes when we break into 2 teams in the world of the challenge, or even 3 teams back on Spies, Lies, and Allies. It's like one team is just kind of better and wins all of the times, and the other teams get upset, and then that helps them also keep losing. I think that's going to happen. I think Faysal's team is going to win. I think Jordan is going to be chosen to go into the elimination, which maybe will lead to the arguments we see happening between Tori and Jordan. I'm sure there will be plenty of other things they can argue about, but I think that might be a part of it, is that, there's only 3 guys to pick from, and that team, if they win and get to choose, like, go for the top dog at this point. Make Jordan beat Devin or Horacio. One of the 2, just make sure he's in there. So I think that's prediction number 2. And prediction number 3 is that, I don't even know. I just think it's going to be a very straightforward thing next week. I think Bananas is going to be annoying. How about that? How about that one? That's going out on a limb there. Yeah, that's going to happen. He's going to be annoying in victory again. So those are your 3 predictions. That's episode 11 of Ride or Dies. That's all for this podcast episode. So thank you so much for listening this week. As always, hit that follow or subscribe. Hit me up on Instagram if you want to talk challenge over this holiday season at Challenge Historian on Instagram. I know not really any content coming out there on the Instagram right now. That hopefully will change sometime in the future. But I do still check the DMs every day. I am still very active in the DMs. If you want to talk challenge, it's great to chat it up with all of you. Thank you so much for listening. Have a safe holiday season. Again, we'll be back. Challenge Australia finale or full season recap and awards on Friday. If you haven't watched the Challenge Australia, I implore you, it's well worth your time this holiday season. You have some downtime, you need something to binge. It's one of the best options that you can go for. So look up those links, very available out there on the interwebs. Watch those, listen to those recaps. Next week, we'll be for sure back for Ride or Dies. We'll see what else pops up. But we got some travel and different things going on. So we shall see. Thank you as always for being here. Talk to you soon. Peace.